The mission for Taste Project is to feed, educate, and serve our community so they can taste and see the Lord is good. And for me, that just means being in full service of the community in a way that God wants us to be, so that people can experience God. So when it comes to the restaurant, we're feeding people the type of food and in a way that this really feels like a blessing to them, not only because they need the food that day, but because it makes them feel special, because I believe that God tries to make people feel special when he gives them a blessing.
So I am Jeff's wife, and I was the first one to hear about his vision for Taste and Taste Community Restaurant. And it definitely was surprising. It wasn't anything I'd ever heard of before. And when he told me, like, hey, I want to have a restaurant that feeds people, I just thought, hey, that's great. But then when he started to unveil some of the layers, like one at a time, it really became clear to me that this was something in his heart. And while I wasn't on board in the beginning, over time, I think God really came alongside me and showed me why this was important to Jeff and to the Lord. And I think at one point it just became something where the risk of not doing it started to become higher than the risk of moving forward. And I think that's the point at which we said, okay, let's jump in and let's do this.
So the first time I heard about Taste, I was sitting in my living room. At the time, Jeff and Julie were coming over every week. We were doing dinner together where they would bring a dinner and then we would make a dinner. And so we would do like hamburger helper, and then they would do like chicken marsala or something real amazing. And so we got the better end of that deal. And we would just talk about, it was really the remnants of an old Bible study, and we just kept getting together. And when Jeff had brought up this crazy idea about a restaurant where he would be able to give people good food, quality meals, and they could pay what they could afford, I was like, what? How does this work? And asked a million questions about it, and remember, he was just so confident in his answers, and he knew the restaurant like it was already in existence. And so I remember hearing more about it and thinking, this is something that however I can support you, I want to.
I first heard about Taste when it was a dream in Jeff's heart that he shared at a home group meeting. None of us had ever heard of a pay-what-you-can restaurant.
I was a business person, so when I heard about the concept, I was taken back a little and wasn't quite sure how it was going to work, but they were very enthusiastic about it, had a lot of energy, and seemed very confident that they could pull it off. As I thought about the concept more and more, I realized the real value of it. How many times have I been going down the street and I've seen homeless people that were asking for money? And I'd always be hesitant to give them money because I wasn't sure if they'd really use it for food or for something else. But with the concept of Taste, I felt like, listen, we can actually minister to these people, provide healthy nutrition, and we were able to know that the money that we invested in Taste was going to be used to really meet the needs of our community. And so I really thought, wow, what a concept. I wish I'd have thought of it.
So the first time I was in this building, it was nothing like this building looks today. It was wide open spaces, concrete floor, which is the way it is today, but it was just raw wires and like an old abandoned warehouse to some extent. And I remember it was great potential, and someone who is like a dreamer like Jeff could make into a Taste Community Restaurant.
My first time at what is now Taste Community Restaurant was on a hot summer day when our home group came to pray over the site with one of Gateway Church's elders. we saw what looked like an abandoned building littered with lumber and junk, surrounded by broken sidewalls. Jeff saw a restaurant.
There are a lot of new restaurants opening in Fort Worth right now, but you won't find another one like this, rooted in food and faith in the kindness of strangers. It looks, sounds, smells, and most importantly tastes like an upscale restaurant.
Excellent. Very, very good.
The Taste on Main Street in Fort Worth's near South Side is different.
Great, I'll take these out of your way.
You'll notice it on the menu where there are on-trend items,
bruschetta with pimento cheese, and we're doing a kale and spinach salad.
but no prices. And when you get the check, what you pay is up to you.
Pay what you typically pay a little bit more to cover somebody else's meal, or pay what you can afford, which can include enjoying a meal at no cost if that's what you need.
If it sounds crazy, it's worked in dozens of other cities.
Thank you.
And Jeff and Julie Williams decided to try it in Fort Worth.
Making Taste Project a reality was really the work of a community of people, like every one of you, and many more volunteers and board members and just support from the community is really what it took to open up our doors in December of 2017.